In this video, we're going to talk about how to find the perfect life coach. I'm going to teach you about the distinctions between the different kinds of coaches out there and what are the warning signs to look out for, as well as what are the welcome signs that you should pay attention to know if you're going to hire the right life coach or business coach for you. Well, let's talk about, what do you want to talk about?
How much you're going to miss me when I'm not here anymore.
So we're going to talk about how to find a perfect life coach. The perfect life coach. It's a question that we get asked quite a bit, and I think a lot of people don't hire coaches because they don't know how to find that perfect life coach. They don't know, meaning, not that there's a life coach that's perfect, but the perfect fit in a life coach. People don't really know what coaching is, I think. People don't know the potential outcome of what a coach is, or maybe a lot of people have hired a coach, didn't have a good experience, and they just figure that, the whole coaching industry is
not for them,
a sham or not for them, or whatever the decision is. So we want to break down in this video how to find that perfect fit as a life coach. And it's actually really simple. There isn't one.
The end.
The end.
Subscribe to the channel.
Turn it off. It's a flawed question. I mean, any kind of perfect question is going to be a flawed question pretty much.
Right.
But a lot of people are asking how to know what the perfect fit is. It's like asking, how do you know what the perfect husband or wife or business partner or any human relationship is going to be? And it's impossible, because you're talking about two humans coming together and evolving in some way.
Right.
So it's not about finding the perfect life coach, especially if you're defining the perfect life coach as the one that's going to get you all your goals and dreams and everything is going to turn out the way you want it to turn out. That kind of perfectionism, not predictable, but trying to be predicted in the future is truly a waste of time. So I think the first way to find the perfect life coach is to let go of the idea that there's a perfect life coach.
Right.
And in reality, you're always going to get more out of your coaching the more committed you are. And if the onus is on the coach to be perfect, so that they give you all the right answers and they tell you all the right things to do so that you can never make any mistakes and avoid all the failure and all that kind of stuff, well, then you're never going to get anything that you're going to be satisfied with.
Right.
So having said that, if we remove the perfectionism tendencies about finding a coach, let's dive in, because it is an important conversation for sure. And I want to tap into or dissect why we are so resistant, I think, number one, to coaching itself, but then how does this brain operate when it comes to making a decision specifically around coaching? So first of all, let's talk about whether it's a good idea to even have a coach.
Yeah.
Is that your answer?
Yeah. I mean, if you're, I believe if you're a human being, then you are going to do better with support. I think a lot of us, myself included.
Excuse me. Continue.
Was what I
That
said
went down
so
the
moving?
Yes. It wasn't that I just drank that down the wrong pipe. Go ahead.
There's only one pipe.
Okay.
I think that if there's so many of us that have this belief that it's like bad to have support, it means that we're less than, it means that we're not capable, that we're weak, that there's something wrong with us. I mean, I know you've shared your story in the past that you were super resistant to getting any kind of coaching.
No, I didn't need any help.
Right. But the reality is that if there's something that we're trying to achieve, if there's a goal that we have, if we're not taking the action that we know we need to be and want to be taking in order to achieve the things that we want, we need an outside perspective. We need somebody else who has the ability and the vision to see the things that we don't see. So if you want something that you don't currently have, if there's something that you know you should be doing, but you're not doing it, or you just want to elevate and move forward in your life, or you're human. Yes, you need a life coach.
Or you're human. Yes.
Perfection is an excuse for procrastination. Right? So it's just a reason. If I'm looking for the perfect life coach because I don't want to be wrong, right, then it makes all the sense in the world that I can avoid hiring a life coach because I haven't found the perfect one yet.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think on some level, we all know that there is no such thing as perfect, but yet it's a convenient excuse.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a human brain, then it's really critical, I think, that we understand that it's not just unlikely that we're not going to get the most out of ourselves. It's impossible for us to get the most out of ourselves. And that's because the human brain is designed to preserve and protect our ego and keep us safe. And so inside of the wiring of our brain is the propensity, did I use that right?
Yes.
For the propensity for preservation, for holding ourselves back. It's not, we're not wired to take risks. I mean, of course, small risks, not a big deal, but the big ones and the ones that are really going to stretch us, our unconscious mind is actually wired to not want us to take risks. And in anything that relates to evolution or becoming somebody that you didn't think you could become, anything that's going to stretch us beyond our comfort zone, our wired neurological components of our brain don't want us to do that.
Oh.
And that's one of the reasons why not only is it impossible for humans to get the most out of themselves, at least if it's possible. I've never seen anybody do it. It doesn't mean we're weak. It means our brain's working properly, and it really means we're wise if we have the foresight, the lack of ego, the humility to say, you know what, I want to hire somebody to help me get more out of myself than I have the capacity to get. And I think capacity is a really important word. And how many of us are trying to punish our way or pride our way beyond our capacity for achievement? You raise your hand. Yeah. Yeah. And of course I do that too. Or I did once.
Yeah.
Is in 1979 and never since. So let's assume that you understand that it's important to hire a coach in order to get yourself further, to pull yourself further, to support yourself further than you could otherwise go on your own. What are the components that make a good coach? Well, actually, I'll tell my story that you teed up earlier. So in 2005, late 2005, I was at an event that a woman was speaking at, and she was talking about coaching and all the things you could do in your brain and all that. And I was in my head at the time that you alluded to a few moments ago that was like, I don't need a coach. It's a sign of weakness. I had a lot of issues with my mom growing up, and she was in therapy for all these years. And so I had this emotional resistance, like resentment toward her and toward therapy. And so I had my own emotional, mommy issues thing going on as well. But I thought that anybody that needed help like that is a loser, weak, can't do it on their own. And I didn't want to even consider that I couldn't help myself. And then she made a statement that was just so perfect, right? She was towards the end of her presentation. And in my head, she'd kind of convinced me that it might be sort of smart, this coaching thing. I don't know. I wasn't fully there. And I remember I had this thought in my head. And I was like, well, if I was going to get a coach, though, it wouldn't be a woman. And I remember the level of condescending tonality just like that. Like, it wouldn't be a woman.
Like, ugh.
And as soon as I said that, she dropped a line that I'd heard plenty of times before, but it just didn't hit me like it did in that moment. And she said, you can never solve a problem with the same mind that created the problem. And as soon as she said that, especially after I had just dropped, well, it wouldn't be a woman, it just pierced me. And I recognized in that moment, if I had the capacity to get me where I want to go, I already would have. Because I've been doing this for a while. These aren't new goals and dreams of mine, but I'm still not where I want to be. And so if we're stuck on something that we've been trying to get to for longer than the time it should take to get there, then we're outside of our capacity.
Right.
Because otherwise we would have done it.
Yeah.
And so actually I started to run to the back of the room. Me and Tony McGee, we looked at each other on the opposite sides of the room, and we literally started to run. And as we saw each other, we were like racing to the back, and they had a table like about this big, like a 6-foot table. And we were looking at each other running so fast. And then we turned around and we weren't looking at the table, and we knocked the table over into the lap of the person that was sitting at the table. I'm sure this poor woman never had that happen, I would imagine. Hopefully. Maybe she needs some trauma coaching now. But my point is, as soon as I was ready, then I needed it.
Yeah.
Like as soon as that armor was pierced, then I was like, what am I doing? You know, if I really, truly want what's beyond my capacity, then I need help. It's just that simple. And the other thought I had was, I know that a lot of these people that I was looking up to at the time, that was relatively new in the industry, Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, and Jim Rohn, and all these people, I know they all talked about coaches. And here I was trying to get something that they got following my own recipe, meaning one of their ingredients is coaches. They kept talking about how critical it was for them. And my ego said, well, I want to do what they've done, but I don't need the ingredient that they're all telling me is critical, right? And that was just another, it's weird. I was going to say validation. And I guess it is on some level like validation, that it's okay to want the help. It's okay to want the support. It was just like a leverage, filled thought. What about you? What was your process for finally breaking down and saying, I guess,
Yeah, I need help.
I need help?
It occurred to me when you were just telling that story that we hear it on two sides. We hear about the successful people. I think so many people know that Oprah has a team of coaches. Beyonce has coaches, right? Tony Robbins has coaches. And then we know the people that are, in therapy and really like just they're in the midst of their like struggle, right? Which I've been in. But we don't talk about the people in the middle, right? At all, like what we actually need to get there. So I think that when we're in that space, I know for me, I didn't relate to the super successful. I didn't relate to Oprah needing the team of coaches. And I wasn't in the place of feeling like I was really in the midst of the depths of my trauma. I was just working really, really, really hard, doing everything right by the instructions that I was being given by other people, right? I was in a multi-level marketing company. I was following everything that they were saying. I was doing all of the right things. I was dressing the way that I was supposed to dress. I was talking the way that I was supposed to be talking, and I wasn't getting the results. And it seemed like the harder I worked, the less successful I was. So it wasn't even like I wasn't getting results. I was actually getting diminishing returns, right? Yeah. Like I was getting less results, and I had all of the external appearances of success. So if somebody saw me on the street, their assessment would be that I was successful, and we were about to have our electricity turned off because we couldn't pay our bills. And I remember I was in my home. I was just on the floor of my bedroom, and I had that moment of surrender. Like obviously what I'm doing is not working. Right. Like, so I can keep trying. What is it? Einstein who said like the definition of insanity is to just continue to do the same thing over and over again. And I thought, I got to get someone else on my
And
team.
expect different results.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It wasn't working. I'd been doing it.
And then did you say, but it wouldn't be a woman?
I did not.
No? Okay. I mean, I hesitate saying that because almost, well, I don't know, not almost all, but a large majority of our community is women.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent so long coaching and training women, but that was the truth.
It's real.
In that moment. And that was just, and I don't, hold on to any truth in that belief because a lot of my coaches have been women, and that first one was a woman. But I think I was searching for any reason to resist, right? And it was my
She wasn't
ego.
perfect.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't the perfect fit. Like, okay, I might do this, but not this way, or not this person, or not now, or whatever the but is, right? Most of us have really big buts that stop us from the things that we want. So going back to this idea of the brain, one of the things that has to happen, especially when we're really trying to move beyond the comfort zone that we have, and we're dealing with habits, and we're dealing with the internal game of traumas and beliefs and all that stuff, is the brain literally needs to be rewired. We literally need to create different synaptic connections, right? Different neurological pathways.
Yeah.
And that's not something that we're just going to sit in our room and just, like, fear, go away.
Connections activate.
Right.
That's how I feel.
Exactly. That's a good callback. You must be really old to remember the Wonder Twins. Yeah. Wonder confidence activate. Form of what? Confidence monkey. Shape of. It was always like an ice thing and a water thing, right? It was like a ice gorilla and a water shovel or something like that. Probably be the opposite, an ice shovel and a water gorilla. But it was something. Yeah, that's a good callback. That was funny. But as much as we would like to, like, we're not going to go in there and just force our synaptic wirings, our neurological pathways to change. And I think a lot of us, although I think it's less now because there's just so much more information out there with brain chemistry and psychotherapy and just the amount of information that's out there. I think most people have learned a little bit about brain research and brain science and the brain's elasticity and all that stuff. So I don't think it's a new concept for most people anymore, but it's still more of an ego thing where, we just don't want to say that we can't help ourselves. But I think the more that we understand what's actually going on inside of our brain is easier. Maybe this is more so for men, or just the ego and, the macho ego, whether it's in women or men, of saying, okay, this actually truly is impossible, rather than it's possible, but I can't do it, right? Because that means I'm incompetent or whatever my inadequacies are.
Especially with life, right? Like, it makes sense. We can see it with our fitness.
What's with life?
With coaching.
Okay.
Right? Like, I can't figure out my life.
Oh.
Right? It makes sense to me that I would need coaching if I'm going to be an athlete, right? If I want to up my golf
sports,
game,
yeah.
right? Or if I want to help my diet, or if I want to, I'm studying for some big exam, like that I would get a tutor and get that outside support. But man, this is my life.
Yeah.
And I need help with that.
Loser. It's so real. It's so real. And if any of this is landing for any of you, or triggering you, or irritating you, or whatever, you're human. Like, that's all it means, is that you're human. And if any of you want support, one of the things that we do, we are a coaching company. Just about everything, especially on this channel, is devoted toward coaching and being a coach, but really understanding the whole process of coaching. So if you want any support for any reason whatsoever, we offer free consultations. You can click the link in the description and book a free one-on-one coaching call. And if you want more information, more videos like this, then make sure you subscribe and click the bell. Weren't you going to sing that? Like, okay.
You took it away. I'll drop it later.
Okay, got it.
Keep watching.
Perfect. Uncreepy. So let's assume that you understand.
I need a coach.
Yeah. We should go around and I think the world would be a better place if we all had the ability to force coaching on other people, right?
Huh.
Like it's one thing that we got to jump over our ego, but what if we all had, it's kind of like Clubhouse
That's
invites.
what I was thinking.
like we all only had a certain amount of invites, right? But you can't reject it. So we see somebody's like, oh no, I'm going to use one of my
Somebody
invites,
gives it to you.
one of my coaching, like I don't know what we should actually do this. One of my coaching.
Hold, please. While we develop this program.
Yeah, exactly. Where you could, I don't know what it would look like if it's like a zapper or something like that or whatever it is, or you just touch people, you know. So for the people in our lives that are hot messes, and we can
Like this.
Yeah, I know. It'd be like,
I'm going to use.
all right, on a count of 3, we're gonna close our eyes and then point to the person that you think is worthy of your first. I didn't even count.
I know.
Yeah, I know. So that would there's actually some honesty to that in terms of that would really help because we wouldn't be able to deny it, right? Like if somebody claims you need help,
Like shoot. Oh.
yeah, exactly. I don't think you've ever said shoot before. I don't. Thank you for filtering for our audience. But just the idea that we deny it, you know, we deny our need and we deny the opportunity, or we deny what's actually really good for us because it's not perfect or because we're not ready or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So if you want to coach, we want to go through some, what are we going to call these things? Parameters, like a checklist, bullets.
I like the checklist.
Okay, so we'll go through a little bit of a checklist of what we suggest you look for if you want to find the perfect, unperfect coach. So first of all, let's make sure that a coach is right for you. You know, a lot of people just want healing, which is totally fine, and there's coaching that can provide healing. And I think a lot of people will go to therapy or go to counseling or something like that if they just want healing, if they want to heal traumas. Some people will look to mentors if they just want to learn how to climb up some hill, and they find somebody that's already climbed up that hill. I'd say a lot of times that's in the performance realm, whether it's people who've already built a business or you look for somebody who's done, you know, the certain sport that you're in or something like that. But coaching, there's an element or a type of coaching at least that can do all of that, that can heal the deep inner work. You know, that's one of the things that we certainly do in our company here is the deep work, the neurotransformational coaching, the trauma healing, the belief change, all of that. So that's possible. And I think the reason that most people would want to go to a coach is not just for the healing by itself, but to clear whatever obstacles so they can create whatever they want to create in their life, so they can have some kind of an outcome. And so I think the coaching that obviously the two of us believe in is the coaching that can help somebody lock on to an obstacle, not an obstacle, but a target, lock onto that target and create a game plan and go after it and create the support and accountability and all the things you need. And then if you bump into an obstacle, like all of a sudden your body just doesn't want to, or the perfectionism kicks in and procrastination, all the things that we're dealing with, then we can go into the recipe and say, okay, what's up here, right? And I saw you do that just earlier today with somebody over a Zoom call. Just, you know, what's up, what's going on, and tell me more about that. And this exploratory type of healing work so that they can get somewhere.
Right.
And in this particular situation, well, do you want to tell just a little bit about like what caused you to jump in and push me out of my chair and said I'll take over?
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, so we have a mastermind and we're working with one of the clients who has everything laid out. She has all of the social media posts. She has them for 30 days. She has more content prepared than like we do. I was really impressed with that. And apparently it's all like uploaded and ready to go. And the only thing that needed to happen was for her to hit the post button.
Yeah, she kept saying, "Yeah, I just got to push the button."
I just got to push the button. And she wouldn't do it. And she'd been procrastinating.
And this is somebody that is really accomplished. You know, I mean, she's done quite a bit, and she's been visible, and she's been successful, and she's been on billboards. Like, she's been out there. So it was really fascinating that in this one area with this one particular project, she wouldn't push the button.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that you said a moment ago that I really loved, is that we establish the goal, we establish the target, we get emotion, and then if. And that was the word that you used that really resonated with me. If there is a block, then we get to explore. So then we can go over there in the past to figure out what's going on that's preventing us from taking the action here in the present.
For the purpose of staying in motion.
Exactly.
I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss.
Yeah. To stay in motion, not to stay in the past.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people are afraid of.
Staying in the past?
Yeah. Why they don't say yes to this work, because they believe that that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's we hear that a lot for sure. It's a good point that a lot of people just like they resist touching anything from the past, because whether they've had therapy or counseling, or they just heard about people in therapy or counseling, or just in the way that they think about it in their mind, they've never been able to touch it and then unhook it so that they can go forward. And it's a really good point that people aren't afraid of their emotions or afraid of their traumas or afraid of their past experiences as much as they're afraid of going there and getting stuck there.
Right.
I think most people, if they knew that you could unhook, if they knew that you could heal, if they knew what was possible in the brain, in the body, then I just can't imagine anybody going, nah, I don't want to.
No,
you know?
I'd have run and busted a table down. Like, I'd have been racing you and Tony.
Exactly. Right. And yeah, it's just the lack of belief of what's actually possible that keeps so many people from saying yes.
Yeah.
So assuming that somebody says they are ready for the support, they do want a coach to help them achieve a result that they don't have the capacity to achieve on their own, then what? What are you going to use as like a filter, right? And what I'll say most people use as filters is the wrong stuff.
I was going to say
What
money.
were you going to say?
That's,
Yeah? Money is one of the reasons, or one of the things that a lot of people use. Just at an umbrella level, we just use the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
Because we use our ego, we use the piece of our intellect that is trying to keep us safe to choose the coach that's going to take us beyond our comfort zone.
yeah.
It's just very
That makes
rarely.
sense.
Yeah, this is just not gonna happen. The coach that your ego approves of is probably going to be a coach that will not take you outside of the comfort zone that your ego is trying to keep you inside of.
Yeah.
So if the ego's main job is to keep you in here, then why would it say yes to something that's going to take you out there? Doesn't make any sense. But money is one of the reasons. Is it going to be easy? Is it going to be guaranteed? Like all these things that the ego then looks for.
Is she a woman?
Is she wouldn't be a woman. So let's dive into a few of the things. We're going to give you some warning signs, and we're going to give you some welcome signs to watch out for, really. So some of the warning signs. You want to popcorn this back and forth?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, go ahead. You can start.
Yeah, anybody that offers you any sort of one size fits all approach, right? I do this with all of my clients. This is the 3 steps to get from here to there. No, thank you.
Yeah, and there can be stages, like a before, during, after. There can be umbrella steps or umbrella frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that looks like these are the details, this is the assembly line, we have the thing that, like you said, works for everybody.
We do this with all of our clients.
Yeah, we do this with everybody. Don't worry about it. Just follow the path. That's disrespectful, because no single path is going to work for all individual humans. And the second thing is, to that point, is a clear step-by-step plan that's guaranteed, right? If you just do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, we promise you this is what you'll experience. And what if I'm scared to push the button for this reason that somebody else wasn't afraid to push the button for, right? Whoever the plan is designed for is really the only one that the plan is necessarily going to work for. And if we just try to force ourselves into the plan, then there's no guarantee that it's going to work for us. And I think a lot of us don't, whether it's a self-esteem issue, I think that's the case for a lot of us. We don't value ourselves enough to actually find what's going to work for us. I think that's a function of low self-esteem, is that if we do want to try something, it's like unconsciously we'll try something that we actually don't think is going to work, or we don't have enough value to say, fix me, right? We don't have enough like self-esteem to say, I want you to break the mold, and I want you to put me under the microscope, and I want you to take a look at me.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that is because we're afraid of being seen.
Like, yeah, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Back up.
Back up.
Do not look at me.
Yeah. And that's so real. You know, the intensity changes. Some people are terrified of that. Some people not as terrified. It might just be like embarrassing on a lower level, but it's real.
It's vulnerable.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's vulnerability.
I mean, it's still vulnerable for me now after all the years of being coached and being in that client, when I have one of those moments, right? Like the client earlier today, where I'm just stepping into something new, or there's I'm stepping into something new, and that comes up, and I have the opportunity to be seen in that.
Right.
I mean, it's honestly, it feels like being seen naked, and that's just uncomfortable.
Vulnerability.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it has to be uncomfortable. I mean, think about it. If we're trying to get out of our comfort zone, I mean, it's so ridiculous when you think about it in certain ways that our brain actually works. So I want to go beyond my comfort zone. I just don't want it to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
That should happen sometime never.
Exactly. I would say a warning sign would be if you have a coach that's telling you what you're going to get from the experience versus asking you what you're wanting to experience. This is a big one for me.
For you as a potential client?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that a warning sign, would you say?
It speaks to what you were talking to earlier about putting me in like the one size fits all clear step-by-step plan. How are you going to create something for me if you don't even know what I want? If you haven't even asked me, like you don't even know me, how are you going to create some kind of plan for me? It feels disrespectful. It feels like I've just been put into some sort of assembly automated line where this is just how you process clients versus you actually sitting down and asking. I remember one of our first, actually I think it was our very first coaching call, where you asked me at the end of this process, like at the end of our time together, like, what is it that you want to experience? And we spent like the whole call, I feel like, just talking about what it was that I was going to want at the end of our time together. And I remember hanging up the phone actually as a client and being like, he didn't fix me. Like I had that awareness because that was a big demand for me early on in my journey. But as we continued on together, I'm like, oh, he was getting to know me. and understand me and learn what it was that I wanted so that you could then take that and then co-create a plan with me, because coaching is a relationship. It's not you just like talking at me and telling me. So it makes me feel seen and heard and valued, and like you're my partner in this creation, not somebody who's better than me, who's going to talk down to me and tell me what I need to do to be better and fix this.
So did you say yes? Did we ever do coaching?
I think like maybe like 2 calls.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good point. And from another perspective, the coach that is going to tell people what they are going to get, like if you want to make more money, or you're going to lose weight, or I'm going to fix all your relationships or whatever, I think a lot of times, maybe most of the time, that's a sign of lack of confidence on the coach or lack of understanding on the coach. And they're hiding behind the like facade of marketing, right? Like they're hiding behind, I'm going to do this, this, and this for you because I'm actually afraid of asking you what you want. Because what if I can't do that? So I'm going to keep it safe and tell you what I'm comfortable with.
Right.
Rather than ask you what you might want, because I might not be comfortable with that.
They're totally afraid of the person. Like that coach is afraid of me and relying on the process.
Yeah. It's process-driven versus person-driven. And if you do process-driven coaching, if there is a change in the person, it's just pure coincidence. It's just like it's just an accident, basically. But if you can focus on the person, then you can absolutely focus on processes and help people change processes in their lives. But the only way to have a true transformation is to really focus on the person. So another thing that you can smell, I think sometimes, is just the overall lack of certainty. You know, that when people talk about their stories, or they talk about the clients they've had, or they just kind of paint a vision for the future or what you could expect, there's a level of certainty that I think we can pick up on if we're paying attention, if we're looking through it and for it. And I mean, a lot of people just don't have it. A lot of coaches just don't have it. I mean, people just in all walks of life. And that's a sign, obviously, right? I mean, because people want to be certain that if I'm going to hire you as a coach, I want to make sure that you can help me do the thing that I'm not certain that I can do.
Right.
And so if I smell any uncertainty in your part, then I'm probably not going to hire you. And so a lot of coaches get frustrated because they think that they have the confidence in the processes, or they know the right price to charge, and they have all the websites down and all those things. And they're frustrated because people aren't hiring them. And this is one of the main reasons. That's unconscious. Like people can smell it. It's because you don't have certainty.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't trust you, I'm not going to hire you.
Right.
Like, and unconscious is a key word.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'd say the last thing to watch out for in terms of a warning sign would just be desperation. So super hypey energy, hope. I was like, what are you whistling?
Yeah.
It was Desperado.
Desperado. Yeah.
I thought
Probably
I
doesn't
was
even mean.
gonna sing.
Yeah. Well. Now, are you desperate?
Can you touch my nose?
Can you feel?
I think I need one of those invitations.
Desperation. Can I touch your nose?
Yeah, to give me like a coaching from earlier.
Oh, okay.
It was your idea.
Got it. Okay, there's a good callback by you then. I messed up. Sorry.
I need to activate my synapses. Yeah, so desperation, hype, hope in me, brought out by that doesn't even make any sense. You obviously wrote this note.
You're trying to
"What
make
is
my
that?"
notes make sense.
Sense, yeah.
You said in like 4 times.
I know. I'm like, in what?
What?
I don't understand that. Any kind of hope. You don't want to coach with hope. That's not
You want me
right.
to take this one? Okay.
Yeah, any kind of hype. Cut this part. Go ahead.
No, don't cut it. So, like, just the combination, right? Pull it together.
I got it.
Of desperation and hype and the victim-y kind of hope, right? I mean, because hope is what we all want. It kind of drives us on some level, but the hollow sort of hope, like I just hope with just this last dollar or just this last attempt that somebody's going to come fix my life, right? Like the hope in other people. And I'm talking about as a client. So if you feel the desperation in yourself, if you feel the hype in the sales pitch, or you might feel like, you're all hyped up emotionally, and then there's that hollow kind of hope, then you're probably making a wrong choice, because those chemicals that are released in the brain that produce that combination are not produced from the place that's going to give you commitment or conviction or alignment. And you can also feel some of that in the coach as well. So if you feel the coach feeling desperate, or you see the coach trying to hype you up, or the coach feels hopeful in that shallow kind of hopeful way, then that's usually a sign that it's like making a drunk decision, right? That like those three things really truly are
intoxicating,
emotionally intoxicating.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we make choices out of that inebriation, out of that drunken state, then we're really usually not going to make good choices. And when you're paying attention to your body and your emotions, you can tell a difference between leverage, which is just, I'm going to do this. Now is the time. I really need to. I must. I want to. From a rooted place versus now's the time. I must. I need to. From a hope-driven, like hype, shallow place.
Yeah.
Sometimes the words actually sound the same in our brains, but if we're paying attention, the emotion is not the same.
No. I was thinking there's a lot of in more of the desperate place of like it's more frenzied. Like I can't miss out. It's more of that frenetic
urgency,
energy. Yeah.
And that shows up a lot of times in the sales pitches and so forth. So say something smart while I take a drink.
Michelle Moore.
Well done.
Thank you.
So what is the checklist to find the perfect coach? It's kind of like the opposite, right, of everything that we've said. But we do want to put it into specific words for you so that you have things to look out for. And one of them is that the coach scares you in a good way, right? In the way that you're going to be pulled out of your comfort zone. Because anytime that we contemplate being pulled outside the walls of our comfort zone, fear will show up. Fear has to show up unless we are psychotic. If we're psychotic, then we might not be connected to the fear that naturally shows up when we're trying to move outside of our comfort zone. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who has a big goal is going to create fear, but that means that goal for that person lives inside of their comfort zone.
Right.
But we all have a comfort zone, and anything beyond that comfort zone will produce fear.
Right.
It's just the way that our human brain works. And the problem is that so many people have been programmed to avoid fear at all costs, no matter what the reason is, no matter when it shows up, even the good kind of fear, because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Causes us to doubt, causes us to worry. And then the brain kicks in and goes, oh, we're afraid. Are we going to die? And then we run away from the thing that's causing us the fear. So if we think about hiring a coach, we think about going after our goals, and the brain produces fear, we have this natural but also programmed response to remove the thing that just triggered the fear.
Yeah.
In this case, the decision that we're contemplating. And that's a huge mistake. So we have to be able to recognize the kind of fear that's really this welcome sign versus the warning sign. And it's going to be the kind of fear that says, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'll be able to keep it up. I don't know if I'm maybe going to lose my family or my friends. It's the kind of fear that contemplates the consequences of success
Okay.
rather than the catastrophes of effort. I don't think we've ever put it that way.
Yeah.
So the fear that we generally shouldn't listen to is the kind of fear that tries to scare us with catastrophe.
Right.
Meaning, if we try this, people aren't going to like us. If we try this, we're going to lose money.
Right.
If we try this, we're going to lose the belongingness
Right.
of
Social
one of our
status.
in-groups or something
Right.
like that. That's the brain trying to scare us with catastrophe. But the fear that says, what if we get really successful? What if we outgrow our relationships? What if people that we love don't like us? What if we start getting the judgment? What if I
Attention.
actually see my capabilities and it's scary, right? That's the kind of fear that's based on the consequence of succeeding rather than the catastrophes of trying. And there is a distinction there, even though a lot of times the words and the thoughts might be similar, but if we really listen, we can tell.
Absolutely. The other thing that fear has showed up for me, and I hear this with a lot of my clients, is that they know they can't lie. So if I like,
Meaning, go
like
ahead.
I was afraid because I knew that you
That's what made you afraid, is you
Yeah.
knew you couldn't lie? Okay,
I knew you could see me.
right,
So I can't hide because you can see,
right.
right? And that was terrifying because that goes back to the vulnerability piece.
So that would be a great fear
Absolutely.
to lean into
100%.
because you know that me, in this case, seeing your vulnerability, the coach being able to see the vulnerability is what's required
100%.
to grow. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that, another thing to really lean into is a coach that is vulnerable and transparent and human and willing to share their humanness and share their errors and their mistakes, whether it's on their website and their About Me story or in your conversations or on videos. They're just willing to admit that they're human too, instead of coming from this elevated place of flawless perfection.
You did a good job guessing at what I meant when I wrote those
Thank you.
notes. Yeah, that was really good.
You didn't write all the notes.
I think I wrote those, though. This willingness, like you said, is an important one. And if a coach is trying to impress with accolades and accomplishments and so forth, that's usually a sign that they haven't touched their own vulnerability, at least not in a way that they see the value of it enough to share it.
Yeah.
And which probably means that they're not going to help you do anything with yours.
Yeah, I'm not going to want to be vulnerable with you either. Like, I kind of need you to go first, man.
Right.
Like, this is a new situation for me. So,
Yeah, and that willingness to share their story, I think, is a great tangible thing to look for.
absolutely.
And the real story, right? Not just the fake story, what I want everybody to be impressed by.
Yeah.
So another piece of this in terms of the way the coach acts is integrity. Does it seem like the coach is in the same game that you want to be in? Does it seem like the coach, has goals and commitments and is showing up with consistency, right? And a lot of coaches don't. A lot of coaches just want to tell people what to do, but they're not in it, right? They're not in the same transformation journey. And that doesn't mean that coaches have to be beyond, any of their flaws. I don't think any of us ever get there.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, you would lose your card immediately,
I was like, I've arrived.
as would I. So to see if the coach is still in motion in the same,
Right.
especially in the same area that you want support in. Doesn't mean the same details, but the same journey of evolution, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And we can tell if we're looking for it. We can tell. And I think another piece of this is whether the coach is taking ownership versus blaming other people, other circumstances, situations. We've never known blame to work when it comes to.
It feels good, though.
It feels fantastic.
I do love it.
It feels fantastic. I guess we have to define what work means. But we've never known blame to work with any kind of sustainable change. It's not an element of transformation.
No.
And so if you see a coach that's really stuck in this blame game, then and in that case, it doesn't, I don't think it matters whether it's the same area. Like whether it's like, you want to hire somebody for a relationship, let's say. It doesn't matter whether they're blaming inside of a relationship context or anything. It's just the use of and the existence of blame anywhere is not going to produce transformation and ownership and longevity and sustainability and all that.
Happiness, empowerment, change. Yeah. All the things that I think a lot of us that when we're hiring a coach are actually looking for.
Right.
Yeah. That was like a bonus warning sign.
What I just said?
The blame.
Oh, the blame?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to do the next bullet?
I am. I was taking a moment.
Okay.
So they're willing to talk to you before you start coaching, right? They're willing to have a consultation call. They're willing to get on the phone with you, maybe more than once. They're willing to engage with you and connect and communicate. There's not some like barrier that you need to cross before you are actually able to connect with them. And that doesn't mean that, I know in our company we have, coaches that do consultation calls, but you can get on the phone with somebody, you can talk to somebody, you can feel that human connection before making any kind of decision. And I think that's important. So you can feel it out.
Yeah. So you can kind of get a sense of the relationship. And I think there's a commitment element here that's important. If the coach, and what I'm about to say, I don't fully agree across the board all the time, because I think there are certain coaches that, they're at a certain status and you want to work with them, and they're just at the point where, like, if you're not going to pay the money up front, then
sure.
But that's a very small percentage. For the most part, the coach that won't do a free session or the coach that won't commit and kind of meet you where you are so that we can assess whether there's a good fit, usually is protecting something. Usually it's overcompensation of something, whether it's, again, self-esteem and some of the things we talked about. So I know that's one of the important things for me, is that I want to feel the energy of a relationship before I say yes to it.
Yeah.
And I've gotten into some contracts in the past that I wanted out of. So part of that is just my own experience. I think, I hate to use this broad stroke throughout the whole industry. And I'm not truly saying that any coach that won't do like a free session isn't worth it. I'm not necessarily saying that. But there's got to be some level of willingness, I think, to engage, whatever that is. So the final thing here is just trust your intuition. Trust your gut. I think a lot of people feel warning signs and they don't listen to it. We all have intuition. It's just most of us don't listen to it.
Absolutely.
And that creates a lot of resentment. After the fact, we look back and go, I should have paid attention to the thing that I was thinking of, or the thing that I was really concerned about. So all the stuff that we've talked about in this video, trust yourself, trust your gut. And I think whenever we trust our intuition, we very, very rarely go back and regret. Even if it doesn't turn out the way we wanted it to, at least we can say, I trusted my intuition. Mm-hmm. And then it didn't play out the way I wished it did, but at least I listened to myself.
Right.
But that actually doesn't happen all that often. Mm-hmm. I would say when people do listen to their intuition, they start to feel some of the fear that we talked about, some of the vulnerability, and they decide to not act on it.
Go the other way.
Right? They're actually getting the right signs, but they're just not acting on it because the discomfort is scaring them.
Absolutely. It's got more power than the thing that they want, right? The things that they're afraid of, the discomfort is just overpowering the desire for the change and the transformation. And that's okay. I mean, that was my journey, right? The first time that I read your story, your vulnerable story, I slammed my computer shut. I was like, absolutely not. And that same thing was the thing that drew me back to you.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you want to read that story, we'll put a link in the description here, or you can just go to our the main website, coachshaunsmith.com, and click on About. Writing that story was huge for me. It really shifted a lot in my business and my willingness to put that up online. That level of vulnerability was big. So that was one of the significant needle-moving moments in my career as a coach.
People should subscribe to the channel, and maybe we can do a video and talk about writing that story, because it was pretty transformational in my journey as a coach as well.
Perfect. We'll do that.
There you go.
So if you like these conversations, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. If you like this video, check out that video where I talk about the #1 success principle for coaches. The millions and millions of dollars that we've generated is because of this concept. Your spirit is driven by risk. It doesn't care about the dangers, because your spirit knows that the greatest danger to its fulfillment is standing still.